Okay. Ashley Al, hello. Would you like to open up this conversation with describing how you found the process of doing a project like this? I don't know whether you've done a commission like this before, or
I've done another choral commission for the Senate of Canada last year in June. It was a piece to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Exclusion Act. So it was premiered on June 27th, I believe, in the Senate chambers, which was pretty wild because I got to sit in a special chair. But yeah, so I guess this would be maybe my second commission in the choral world. It was quite a trip to get the ask, and an honor, of course. I guess to give a bit of background, I have a lot of experience being in kind of healthcare spaces, just from my past experience working for Artists in Healthcare Manitoba, who's headed by Shirley Grierson, wonderful person that I love very much. And that program places artists, visual artists and musicians in the healthcare setting to interact with folks that are currently receiving care. During my time there, I was doing work at Seven Oaks General Hospital, the Brandon Regional Health Authority, Grace Hospital, Grace Hospice. And I started doing that work quite young. I was maybe 20 and not really having too many experiences being in those spaces other than visiting babies that were being born in my family. So to see that other side of care where you're not just there to visit, but you're there interacting with folks day to day, week to week, and really getting to know folks, getting to know staff, getting to know patients. It was a lot to learn when you're 20. So when I got the call from you, or email, I found myself excited to kind of re-enter this space again. I had stepped away to do other work, performing as a bassist, touring across Canada and overseas and whatnot, and also doing like sound design for theater and composition for contemporary dance. So to kind of come back here and really get to explore a very special space. It was an incredible opportunity, and I intended to really seize that moment. So there was a lot of reading. I had to go back and, good old Wikipedia, learning about revisiting the things that you learned in biology class that kind of, you think it just slips out of your head, but it sticks in there. So learning a bit about, the cardiovascular system, cardiovascular health, having chats with folks here, like preliminary chats, and relearning all of the privacy protocols and whatnot. And then finally, coming into the space, quasi-prepared with a little notepad to sit and observe, to chat with volunteers, chat with staff, nurses, physicians, and take my little notes, be a fly on the wall, and kind of let my imagination wander.
thank you. So when you were in spaces and when you were in discussions with Reid and Dr. Soni, were there any themes or were there any surprises that came up in any of your conversations together at all? I don't know if either of you would like to talk to that as well.
I guess I can start. I really was leaning on their expertise going in because I went to music school. That's my formal training. So I had kind of an idea of what I wanted to see and hear. I wanted to hear the rhythms of the heart. I wanted to hear the heart in different states of stress and relaxation, pre and post repair, and also to get a sense of the instruments that are used, the metrics that health is measured by. So they guided me towards the various areas within cardiac sciences that kind of made the most sense for that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, the one thing I remember when we met, as I said, if I think about it, there's a lot of sounds. So anyone who's been a patient in Emerge or in cardiology, you're hooked up to a monitor and that monitor beeps continuously. The nurses hear it, we hear it. And so you hear that beeping sound, and that's the heart. And you want to hear that beeping sound because that means the heart's still working. So I think when I'd never really thought about the sounds, to be honest. So as we were talking, I'm like, well, there's a lot of sounds and a lot of our tests that we do for the heart, ultrasound of the heart, echo, you hear the whooshing sounds and the heartbeat, and you see it. I always see it. I'm looking at it, but I think the hearing was something I hadn't thought of. So I think Reid probably took you around to different places.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think the first conversation, or the first email, again, was sort of, what does this ask? What would this look like? And not really understanding or appreciating, knowing the sounds again. Like we hear it every day, all day long. There's sounds we hear. So what does it mean? What would it look like? Not a very tangible thoughts and conversation we had at first. So that's the thing I always say, and I love touring, showing everybody the great work we do all across the program. So that's the first things I said is, we'll walk, because I have no idea what Ashley was after. So I said, let's just walk, we can look, you can listen, and see what there is. So when I think it's just, everybody was very welcoming, didn't matter what area of the program, whether it was cardiac OR, echo, etc., those areas. And it'll be interesting to hear the choral piece, because even echo, there's sounds, and that's what you're looking at is the hearing movement of blood, sounds of the equipment, devices, alarms. That's just continuous sound. So, and that's I guess part of a reason I don't enjoy Vegas. I don't like casinos, because that pinging is what we hear all day long. And here we're winning different ways. We're providing services and care. Hopefully the patient's winning. We're in the casino. You hope when you're hearing that sound, I guess you're making money. But, so I think it was very vague at the start to try to understand what would this look like, and we're very excited to hear.
Dorothy, I'm curious about your experience with this project. So you're right at the other end of the journey of it. So I wonder if you can tell me about the conversation that you and Ashley had together about this project and, your process with it.
Sure. So I got a text from Ashley that said, can I call you? And I was like, why? I knew who Ashley was because Ashley was a student at Maples where I taught for 27 years. So I knew who Ash was. So when she called, she explained the project and said that she was looking for a choir to sing this song. And so I think I suggested 3 choirs to you that she could call. And even though, yes, I direct, and I just want to take just 1 second to say that I co-direct Sonolux with Adrian Kumka, who's at the back there. And I just don't want you to think I do this alone. So, yeah. Adrian's got a little bit of a cold tonight, so she's staying away from the action up here. Anyway, and you called all those choirs and they couldn't do it. And so she texted back and said, none of those choirs can do it. Do you know anybody else? And I said, well, how about the choir that we direct together? And so
it was fate.
There you go. So that's how Sonolux came to sing the song. And was there a second part to that question? I forget what you exactly asked.
That's all right, just like the process, because it's an unusual piece of music to have to work with, with an unusual route to it.
For sure, and Ashley was really welcoming and lovely after I listened to the piece, and we kind of had some chats on the phone, and what if this happened, or what if this happened, and that was really nice to have that collaboration a little bit too. I think you can hear like you're not going to hear like the beeps and the sounds of machines, and we talked about that too, right? Because it wasn't all kind of all put together yet. You hadn't written it all when we talked. But you will hear this incredible ostinato that goes throughout and is very, very repetitive and very, you know, intentionally so. And so it was interesting to repeat these words, and I think for the choristers to repeat these words over and over and over. You'll hear them just looping and looping, and I think that's, you know, metaphorically what the machines do, and what the tedium maybe of all those beeps is, and yet the profoundness of, like you say, when things are beeping, things are good. And so just to hear those words, you know, reiterated many, many, many times: take a breath, step toward. I won't say all the words because you're going to hear them. I don't want to give it away. And then the most challenging part of the piece is the center part. So this piece has 3 movements. And in the center part, you're going to hear Ashley's voice, this voiceover, and I'll let them speak to maybe what was going through your mind when you wrote that. But as choristers, we are just singing over top of these sounds that sound like the machines, the whooshing and the whooshing. And we are creating these chord clusters on top, and kind of getting into that as a singer. What is this chord cluster? Is this hope? Is this euphoria? Is it just, are we on a bunch of drugs? Are we, like, I mean, the good ones that are saving our lives? Is it heavenly? Is it afterlife? Is it going out of body? It's very interesting to sing it, and it's very challenging to sing it. Thanks for making it challenging, because we're singing for about 5 or 6 minutes, just chord clusters, and it's become, especially after listening back to the recording, it's become my favorite part of the piece. The singers are probably like, "What is it?" Because it's challenging to do, but it's really gorgeous. So that's a little bit of, I guess, the singer's eye into the piece.
Thank you. You touched on some of the things which you may not know unless you know them. And so I'm wondering, Ashley, you mentioned in one of our communications about Easter eggs. And I was wondering if there's anything any little secret bits or little bits that you would like to share with the audience here.
I guess I could share the Easter egg of the middle section, because you'll hear my voice narrating it, and you'll also hear an extreme amount of vocal fry, because that's how I talk into mics, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. So that's how I talk into mics now. But yeah, the middle section is a bit of an abstraction from a memory that I had as a very young child. I must have been 5 or 6, maybe not 7, 5 or 6. It might have been a long weekend or summer break, and I had just woken up very naturally. The sun was in my face. The window was slightly open, and I could kind of hear the curtain moving. I could see the leaves, the shadows of the leaves dancing in my room. And I could kind of hear my mom doing the dishes in the distance. And I felt very peaceful. I felt so relaxed. I felt so safe. And at that moment, it felt very precious as a child, which is strange, but it burned into my mind. And I often think about this, that level of rest. And I feel like I've been chasing the dragon of rest since then. And I mean, now I'm a person that's an adult that does all sorts of things, work related to, keep the life going, lots of responsibilities, lots of people to care for or keep tabs on, or, the usual things. And we often are pushing rest aside. It's something that we can catch up on. It's something that will come eventually, and it is really something that you have to grasp for yourself. So when I was in the OR observing a multiple bypass surgery, I find myself revisiting that memory, because this person is, under anesthetic. They're who knows where you are when you're there. I mean, some of us have been there. Anybody who's gotten their wisdom teeth taken out, you blink and then you're in another room and you're like, I don't know what happened. But I found myself thinking about that and then also abstracting that into the future, like those moments of chasing rest, those moments of finding it, which is so important to our cardiac health. Stress, sleep, or lack thereof, all those things affect how our body functions and reacts to things. So that middle section is a bit of a soup of those thoughts.
Could you also tell us about why you called the composition Figure of Eight?
Well, I mean, the number 8 I really like. It's a auspicious number for Chinese people. Yeah, it's an auspicious number. Also, if you flip it sideways, it looks like an infinity symbol, which I've always liked the idea of forever. Also, it's a type of suture that you can sew, I guess, onto a person to use to sew a person together. And it's also how our circulatory system moves, which I learned in rehearsal. Because one of the choristers teaches, I guess, biology?
Or been paying attention. What was it,
Or been
Sarah?
paying attention. I don't know. But
Science.
right on, grade 8 science. I looked it up afterwards and I was like, wow, I must have just plucked that out. I don't know. Like, so that's why I called it that. I love the idea of forever, and we are in forever. So,
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask Ashley or Dorothy or Reid or Dr. Soni or me?
don't be shy.
You can be shy.
Oh yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's a free country.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions at all about this? If you do, hold up your hand. If you don't, that's great. That's great. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they would like to say before we go into the next part of this evening?
I have one question. So there's some volunteers on this course from St. Boniface, and I teach the cardiovascular course in medical school. So where did you find these people? I'm sorry, Reid and I couldn't make it. We were trying, but we couldn't make some of the rehearsals. So
Where did we find the people from St. B?
yeah, or the medical schools.
Oh,
That's what I do with these people.
endless nagging. Endless nagging, endless posturing. If I share an elevator with you, beware, because I will give you a flyer and invite you to participate in something. I was just asking anybody that I saw in the hospital that had a lanyard. It's like, oh, do you know this project? I think you can. No, my first question would be, can you sing? And everyone says, no. I was like, are you sure? And then you can tell, like, there's a hesitation of, like, well, it's like, I think you'd be great. I can tell. Just the way you make that noise. You'd be great.
You never ask people if they can sing. Everyone can sing. You say, do you like music?
Oh, for the next project. Yeah, it was just endless nagging. As you and Reid know, because I was endlessly nagging you, and I just was pretending that, assuming that you were going to be part of the choir and just acting on that assumption until you were like, please stop. Please stop. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes, we have a question.
Maybe you said, how long did this whole process take from idea to getting the players and getting it all?
How long did this whole process take? It was about this time last year that I had, the idea had been basically approved and funded. And so then I was talking to my manager and to Reid and Dr. Soni and to Ashley. And so it's been about just shy of a year, I think. Yeah, just shy of a year. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the writing process, I finished it in December.
I know what your deadline was.
Yeah, you
December 11th.
you're like, get this to me by the 11th or else. Yeah, I'd say the writing of it was maybe 2.5 weeks of like extremely concentrated. That was my full-time job, which is a cool full-time job for 2 weeks. But the researching period was about a month, just over a month. And it happened in stages, doing the most like overwhelmingly awesome tour with Reid here through all the spaces, and then like spending time in the spaces and observing things and coming home and making notes and then having questions and researching further and then coming back and maybe asking those questions if I was brave enough to talk to people that seem like they're doing very important, busy work. So, yeah.
How long were you rehearsing for? Was it 2 months?
Yes, Adrian, when did we have our first rehearsal? December 30th? Yeah, I think December 30th was the first rehearsal, and then we rehearse on Mondays, so we've been rehearsing it, not the whole time. We have other things that we're doing, of course. We got concerts. Can I plug it? Just kidding. But yeah, so Mondays since December 30th.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yes, Sierra.
Question for Ashley. What was it like to, take all of your experience in the hospital and like experiencing the OR and turning that into music?
So what was it like experiencing the hospital and the OR and turning it into music?
It was very intense. It was very intense, but also very calm. The team there is so tight-knit and just, they work in concert with each other so well. I was really blown back by the cycles and how people moved around each other, how people talked to each other. It's such a tight-knit team. It's such an incredible team to see the ways that they interact with patients before, they go under, addressing concerns that were clearly noted from like a previous conversation that they had. And it's just, there's so much care there. And it made me very confident. I was like, if I was there, I would not worry. I feel like these folks, they know what they're doing. And yeah. And also as a person who has a family with a history of, cardiovascular disease and also, on and off hypertension, depending on what's going on in my life. To be in that space and to see how precise people are, how much they are passionate about their work and how that passion translates into passion for their friends, their families, their communities outside of cardiac sciences. It's really incredible.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Any other questions? All right, let's get this show on the road. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to clear away the chairs, and choir members, would you like to come and assemble?